Does smell pretty sweet. So today we're going to have a look at the Steam Deck OLED. We're also going to cover my first impressions as someone who's never owned a Steam Deck before. So in this video we're going to cover the things I like and dislike about the Steam Deck OLED after only owning it for 24 hours. So I actually only got this console yesterday, so this video will mainly be my initial thoughts, but I have had a bit of a chance to test some games on this console and kind of gather my thoughts. And as always, if you do end up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've just hit 2,000 subscribers, which is absolutely amazing. And we're going to try and aim for 20 likes on this video. Let's get on with it. So we're going to start off by covering all the updates that the Steam Deck OLED offers over the original Steam Deck. So Valve released the original Steam Deck back in February of 22, exactly 2 years ago. And then a couple of months ago they updated the Steam Deck with the Steam Deck OLED, which I have here. This version specifically is the 512GB version. They also make a terabyte. In terms of prices in the UK, you can pick up the 512GB OLED model for about £480. And if you want to double the storage to 1TB, that'll set you back about £570. So this new Steam Deck OLED does have some substantial upgrades over the original Steam Deck. The main and most obvious upgrade is the screen. It now has a 7.4-inch 800p OLED display. So the display resolution is the same as the original Steam Deck, but the screen is now slightly larger at 7.4 inches with smaller bezels. But the most noticeable difference is the display technology. It's now OLED as opposed to LCD. So if you don't know what OLED is, then it's a display technology that in many ways is superior to LCD. How it works is the individual pixels on the screen emit light as opposed to LCD screens where there's a backlight. So what does this all mean for the user experience? Well, quite a few things actually. So an OLED display has faster pixel response times. So what this means is when you're playing a game, there's less ghosting and motion blur. This particular OLED display is now brighter than the previous LCD display. So for standard definition content, it has 600 nits of brightness. And when you're playing HDR supported games, it could get all the way up to 1000 nits peak brightness. What this should mean is games should look a lot brighter and a lot more contrasty. The OLED display also has more vibrant colours, and because OLED displays are able to switch off pixels, this display will produce darker blacks than the LCD display. Another advantage of this OLED display is it's actually more power efficient than the LCD display, so that should improve battery life as well. And another massive upgrade is that it now supports 90Hz refresh rate. So this means in certain games that can run at over 60 frames per second, the gameplay should appear smoother and more fluent. So here's the Nintendo Switch OLED, which also has a 7-inch OLED screen, but in many ways the display on the Steam Deck OLED is actually better than the Switch OLED, as this Steam Deck display supports 90Hz refresh rate and HDR content, which this does not. So the display isn't the only upgrade. The new Steam Deck still has the same AMD Zen 2 based APU. So in terms of raw performance, it should be exactly the same as the original Steam Deck. But the APU has been shrunk from 7nm to 6nm. So what this means is the graphics processor chip should be using less power than before, which will help improve battery life. One hardware upgrade that should improve performance is with the system memory. The new Steam Deck still has 16GB of shared graphics and RAM, but this system memory is now faster than before, so there should be some performance improvements in some games. So in terms of console storage, there's also been an upgrade. The Steam Deck OLED is now offered with up to a terabyte of SSD storage, and in both models this can be upgraded with a micro SD. Another area that this Steam Deck OLED has been updated is with connectivity. So this Steam Deck now supports Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. Another very impressive upgrade over the original Steam Deck is battery life. So the new Steam Deck is claimed to have about 50% better battery life, and this is down to having a slightly larger battery and more efficient processor and screen. Another feature is that it now has faster charging than the original. So Valve now claims that you can charge the new Steam Deck from 20% to 80% in 45 minutes. Now there are a few subtle changes to the external design of the Steam Deck because you need other people to know that you've got the OLED model, not the original. So the way you can tell if someone's got an OLED model is one, that the power button is now orange as opposed to black. Also the design of the joysticks has changed slightly. Apparently the new joysticks are a bit grippier and a bit more durable. And finally there's one other thing worth noting. Both the original LCD and the 512GB OLED model of the Steam Deck have, try and show you in the reflection, but a glossy screen. Whereas if you upgrade to the terabyte version of the Steam Deck, it comes with a matte screen. So if you're someone that gets annoyed by screen glare, then it might be worth getting the terabyte version of the OLED. Or for a bit cheaper, you could just get a matte screen protector, which I don't have, I don't know what I was showing you. People have been saying that the fan smells sweet. It does actually, yeah. So moving on, what have my initial impressions of owning a Steam Deck OLED been? So I've not downloaded the largest library of games, but I have tested a few. I have actually been very impressed with the performance of the Steam Deck. I was initially a bit skeptical because the processor inside the Steam Deck is a couple of years old, but it seems like as long as you're not playing the most demanding AAA title, then it will run it absolutely fine. One of the games that I started playing was Dark Souls 3. This was a game I played a couple of years ago on the original Xbox One. It runs absolutely terribly on that console. It can barely hit 30 frames per second and it's running on like low settings. So I was very surprised to see that this Steam Deck could run that game amazingly. So I had the in-game settings on medium and the resolution 800p, so the full screen resolution, and it ran the game at a solid 60 frames per second with very minimal frame drop. Another game that I tested was Left 4 Dead 2, which is a less demanding title, and on high settings I was able to lock the game at 90 frames per second with basically no frame drops. Another game that I tested was Amnesia: The Dark Descent. This is an older game that I was expecting to run absolutely fine because it's not very graphically intensive. But the best part about playing Amnesia on this console was the OLED screen. So as of yet, they're the only games I've managed to test on the console. So I did try and download a couple more games before I went to bed. I ended up putting the console in sleep mode and hoping that they'll all be downloaded by the morning. And that's where I ran into my first issue with the console. And that is that there's no easy way to download games with the console in sleep mode. So with any other console such as the Nintendo Switch and even a smartphone or an Xbox, you'll be able to start downloading a game, put the console in sleep mode, come back to it and it should be downloaded. For some reason you have to keep the console on with the screen on if you want to download anything, which is a bit silly. As soon as you turn the screen off or put the console in sleep mode, it stops downloading. I have looked online, there are a few workarounds that do work, but out of the box you're not able to download anything with the screen off, which is very stupid, especially with an OLED model because there is a slight worry of burn-in. The other thing I realised is I thought I had more PC games. Turns out a lot of my games are on different stores. The other games that I owned were either on the Microsoft Store, on GOG, or on the Epic Games Store. So I know there are workarounds to get those games on the Steam Deck, but if you want the pure Steam Deck experience, then you might need to buy the games again through the Steam marketplace. But it is worth remembering that things like the Microsoft PC Game Pass don't work very well with the Steam Deck. If that's something that you use, or a lot of your games are on other marketplaces, then it might be worth looking at something else like the ROG Ally, because that runs Windows 11. So yeah, those two things seem to be the only annoying issues that I found with the console. Overall, I've actually really enjoyed it. I think the screen looks amazing, the performance is surprisingly good, the battery life has actually been pretty decent as well. The Steam Deck itself has actually been very comfortable to hold in my hand. So yeah, I have actually been very happy with my purchase of my Steam Deck OLED. Look at this, it also comes with a carrying case, which is very nice. So yeah, I'm planning on making some more videos with this console. So I will be making a video where I compare this to the Nintendo Switch OLED. And if you're interested in watching an unboxing video, my last video I unboxed this, so you can go back on my channel and check that out if you want. So that's going to conclude this video. If you have enjoyed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to drop us a like. I make car and tech videos. I will see everyone in my next video. Does smell pretty sweet.